Guys, welcome in. Let's jump in and see what the vibe for today is. You guys are doing well. All right. Let I have autumn coming out. When autumn comes out, this is indicative of a time of allowing things that need to fall away. The end of their time of, being fruitful and, good for you is, now over. You're entering into a new season where you need to allow the old to fall away so that you can get some rest in between and get ready for the new. Okay. After autumn again, we all know comes the winter. And so that usually is indicative of as we go through the process of letting go, it can be really challenging for us to let all of those things go and move through them. So then we get a little bit of a rest period in between so that we can again regain some strength, regain some energy, and heal from those situations that we've allowed to fall away or have fallen away from us. And then we move into a time of spring where things begin to blossom and bloom. Okay. So it looks like you're just in a time things may have already been falling away in your life for some time now, or you may be beginning to start the process of realizing that some things need to change so that you can allow for something new to come in. I have alignment here and now. Okay, so again, things are beginning to align for you. So you need to recognize the fact that whatever it is that needs to fall away, allow it to fall away because you are now in alignment with a higher, opportunity, a higher situation, a higher, relationship, whatever this may be that you've been hoping for, to get into alignment with so that it can come into your life. It looks like the energies are now in your favor. So you just need to get to a point where you can be in the present moment so those things can start to come in and again continue to surrender to allow that which needs to fall away to fall away. Let's keep going, see what else is going on here. I have shadow and light. Okay, so in that be here now card, this can be very challenging when we have a lot of changes that are taking place in our life, whether we have implemented those changes or not. We can begin to go through a process of going deep into the shadow aspects and kind of traversing waters of what is no longer serving us. So we think that when we're going through a time of transformation and things are falling away from our life, we do think that they're just kind of external things, but it can be both. And sometimes it can even be just one or the other of internal things, old emotions, old traumas, old things that we've been holding on to that we've just kind of packed away because we just need to kind of go on with life. This can be indicative of some kind of deep internal transformation that may be taking place with you right now. And what that does is it means it kind of brings you to a place where light needs to be shined into some of those darker aspects of yourself, in those shadows that you maybe haven't paid attention to for a while. It's kind of like that closet that you're just kind of like, well, I just kind of shove stuff in there and out of sight, out of mind, and yeah, I'll get through it one day when I have time. But that day never really comes. But everything has its calling, and this looks like it's a time now where the light is being shined into some of the shadow aspects of your emotional state of being, and are being brought to the surface. And so I know that this may be a little bit of a challenge for you, a little bit uncomfortable, but give yourself grace. Take time to be very present, nurture yourself, and give yourself all of the time in the space that you need in order to process some of these really tough aspects that are coming to light now. Okay, and the best way to do that is to get very present in your energy, not allow yourself to get busier so that you can kind of ignore these things that are coming up and just busy yourself, without needing to think about those things and address them because they're uncomfortable. But really getting present in a place where maybe you can have a little bit of quiet time and downtime. Sometimes when we are going through significant changes, we need time where we can have a quiet space so that those things can begin to process, come to surface, and we can then move through them and move beyond them and release them. Okay, I have the gates of triumph. Success expands in your life. Okay, so again, with all of these things that are falling away, all of the shadow work that you've been doing as of late, it looks like you are being very successful in this, and now you are meeting the challenge even though they're uncomfortable, so that you can then make space and be ready for something new. So just know that the gates of triumph are here and getting ready to bring new things for you in because of all of the work that you've done so far. Let's get some tarot and dive into this and see if we can get some details on what's happening here. All right, let's take a look at the overall energy here. The overall energy, I have the Queen of Cups and Judgment coming out. This is clearly indicative along the lines of what I've been speaking about earlier in regards to that light and shadow work. Okay, so a lot of times this is kind of coming to a reckoning within ourselves. This is definitely a time where some emotional things are coming to surface. So you can have this deep, emotional clearing and purification and purging, so that all of these old things can come out. Things that we've just kind of stored in, not because we're, not trying to deal with them, which I mean, I guess kind of we are, but sometimes life just has to go on and we just don't have time for that. And we need to move forward. Okay. But sometimes, when we do that, it can inadvertently be stored within the body, especially the cells of the body. And so what happens is, you just need a clean house in order for new things to come in, not just externally to us. Do we need to, have, clear space for that? But we also need to do it internally as well, especially when we're going through significant times of change. Okay, so this here is saying there's a huge, reckoning of some of your emotional trauma that is, being called to your attention here. Let's take a look at the recent past. If someone wanted to come out. I have the Empress in the recent past. Again, this is taking time then. So after you've recognized some of those emotional traumas resurfacing, and coming to light, you really took time to answer and heed that call, so that you began really looking into those sides of yourself and allowing them to surface up and move through them, so that you can move beyond them. With the Empress energy, it's really taking time and energy to nurture yourself. You're taking your attention from being outward of you, from outward experiences, your work, your job, your family, your kids, whatever you've got going on, and you're now turning it inward, so that you can then say, okay, it's time now for me to deal with some of these things, okay? And I'm ready. And you're actually allowing these things to happen, okay? Let's take a look at the present energy. The present, I have the Four of Cups and the Knight of Pentacles. Okay, so in the present energy, this isn't surprising to me. After all of the work that you've done so far with some of that emotional trauma, clearing some of those light and shadow aspects, kind of dancing around within you and outside of you, it's no wonder that you're probably in a place where you're like, is this ever going to stop? Is this ever going to end? Am I ever going to move forward? I'm making progress. I'm taking actionable steps. I'm, heeding the, intuitive, hits that I'm getting on what I need to do to clear out some of these things, but like this is kind of getting old. So, it's okay to be in this state, but you are making progress, you are moving forward, and sometimes, things will come in the way that they need to. Okay. So we only get what we can handle. So sometimes that means, little bites instead of just kind of boom coming in all at once. Sometimes that tower comes in and it does this clearing for us, and it's massive and it's intense, and we just got to kind of hold on to our bootstraps. But in this particular energy, it looks like that you kind of got that intuitive nudge. You kind of already knew what was coming. You kind of already knew what was happening here, and you heed that call, and you already started the work ahead of time, so that that tower was kind of inadvertent. It was avoided. Okay, so you might be in this place where, all right, I've already done all this work. Now what? Okay, so that's okay. Just know that there's a time for action and there's a time for stillness, and you might just be in this time of stillness. Okay, but things are moving forward. Let's take a look at the near future. The near future, I have the Seven of Pentacles. Again, this is a really good energy. This is saying, hey, all right, so these are all of the things that I've, got in my life. I've already kind of weeded the garden of my life. I've already kind of took out some things and situations and people and whatnot, that were no longer serving me. They were kind of weeds in my garden, and they were sucking the life out of my flowers. So now here in the near future, you've got all of those, seeds that you've already, kept and that have proven to be prosperous. And you're now going to be in a place where you can truly analyze, well, now what do I want to plant? What energy and efforts and time did I put into these things that I, still have in my life, still want to keep in my life, and still see, want to see going forward in the future? And now you're saying, well, now what do I want to plant next? Okay, so this state of, being in a place of being able to analyze what you want next is a really good energy to be in. Okay, so just, give yourself grace and know that you're making progress, but, it's those slow, meaningful steps that actually play out for the long run. So I know it may seem a little bit stuck and stagnant right now, but it's going to be things that are going to play out positively for you for the future. Okay, they're going to be lasting. Let's get some advice for you. The advice is the Four of Swords. Again, it's like what we were talking about earlier here with the here and now card. It's just saying, you've done enough. You've already been through a lot of changes. You've already done a lot of processing of some of these emotional traumas, these things that have been coming out, these things that have been falling away in your life. They're already hard enough. And all of the work that you've done to get here so far, to get to a place where here in the near future, you're going to be just kind of looking at, well, now what do I want to create? It's a really good energy to be in. But it may be that you're just kind of used to just kind of running out the gate and getting things done. You're just kind of a doer. And that's great and all. But like I said, there's a season for doing and there's a season for resting. And you are being called into an energy of continuing to just rest. Put a gentle focus on some of those things that you hope to, create and manifest in the future, but do it from a place where you're just kind of taking time to be in the present moments, in the here and now. Take time to really look around at what's still standing in your life. There's a reason for the things that are still there. It means that they're in alignment for your highest good and they're ready to go off into the future for you. Okay, let's take a look at what's hidden, something that you may not be seeing that may be helpful. What's hidden? All right, what's hidden here is the sun. Again, things are better than what they seem. Okay, so what's hidden here that maybe you're not seeing so well is that, things are really positive. They may not be going as quickly as you want them to be. They may not be playing out the way you want them to play out, but, things are actually very, very positive and bright right now. And so, though there have been some little bit of stormy clouds in the past here that you've had to really work through, things are beginning to get better. The sun is beginning to come out from the background of those clouds, and you're beginning to get ready to see that light. Just really take again that time to, take note of how far you've come, where you've been, and take time to be present in that and know that things are really more positive than you see right now. Let's take a look at what you don't see coming in the coming weeks. Okay, what you don't see coming here is a couple of things. I have the Four of Pentacles, I have Temperance, and I have the Page of Wands. Okay, so what's going to happen here is that, in this time of rest, you are actually taking time to emotionally, mentally, physically alchemize this new, way of being. Okay, so especially with how intense it can be when you're, releasing a lot of emotional, burdens, a lot of emotional trauma, a lot of emotional everything that you've had from the past, from your whole life until now. It's very it's very normal to be in this state where you're beginning to really alchemize some of those and balance them, so that you can then recalibrate and move forward. Okay. So here, what you don't see coming is that you're going to get out of this really stuck and stagnant kind of place. And as you alchemize and do that, take time to be present and allow for the energies to just kind of balance themselves and recalibrate. You're then going to get that new little spark, that new little initiative of what the next step is. Okay. You're going to get that newfound energy of like, ooh, okay, I want to do this. But it's not until we let the dust settle and, we sift through everything and allow it to just kind of see that we can then see clearly. Okay. So again, with the sun card, you're just maybe not seeing things as clearly just because maybe things aren't exactly happening, right now. And you're feeling that little bit of a comfortability of that in between and that transitionary period. But you will get that spark again. It shows here in the coming weeks. Okay. So hold on tight, hang in there. You've come a long way and things are looking up for you. Okay. I hope you found this reading to be helpful. And until I see you again, take care.